Time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only.
Test is in 4-part, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. Now look at Part 1.
Part 1.
You will hear the manager of a shop talking to a new employee called Penny. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5 on pages 2 and 3. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Come in. Good morning. It's,
Penny Mann.
Oh, yes. Penny, do sit down. Now, I know a lot of things emerged during your interview last week, but I thought it was worth going over the essential stuff again.
Yes, absolutely. That'll be very helpful.
The first thing is that, given your interest in fashions, we've decided to put you in the dress department.
Oh, that's great. Is that next to the children's section?
Yes. Now, we've given the section a new name, actually. From next week, it's going to be called the Young Set.
Youngster.
No, 2 words. The Young Set.
Right. Oh, sorry.
Now, you'll be required to work a 5.5-day week. We're closed on Wednesday afternoon, and Sunday, of course.
Do we get overtime for Saturday?
Well, actually, we used to give an extra $2 an hour, but then we decided to make it a flat rate of $6.50 an hour.
Okay, fine. And the actual hours?
9 to 5, with an hour for lunch and 15-minute coffee breaks.
And what about holidays?
Well, it's 3 weeks in the first year, and that rises to 4 weeks in your 3rd year with us. Now, we do give you on-the-job training, which we conduct during normal hours, so you'll be paid for that.
Which day?
It's on the first Tuesday of every month.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10 on page 3. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, in addition to your basic pay, I should explain that you're entitled to some staff perks, which our assistants do find a valuable benefit.
Do we get a discount?
That's right, 25% off everything in the store, although we do make an exception for sale goods, which I'm afraid have no discount.
Yeah, fine. And I was wondering about pension arrangements.
You get a good company pension, which our personnel manager will be able to explain to you in detail. She's in room 12. Worth going along to see her.
And who will I be working under? Mr. Appleby?
The manager of your section is Mrs. Waddell. That's Waddell.
Mrs. Waddell. Okay. And apart from serving the customers, will I have any other duties?
Good question. We do ask you to do the window dressing.
Oh, I'll enjoy that.
And one of the biggest worries in the boutique is shoplifters, so you have to check for them.
Will I receive training on that?
Yes, certainly. That'll be one of the sessions next month. Oh, and we'll be asking you to check stock.
Right. Yes, of course. And is there a particular dress code in the shop?
Right. Well, we're quite flexible. But what we do is ask you to wear a black skirt, and the shop will give you a red blouse. We'll also give you a name badge, which you must wear all the time.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to ask me?
No, that's very comprehensive. Thank you.
Good. So we'll see you on Monday.
Yes. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2. Part 2.
You will hear the organizer of a rock festival talking to the exhibitors and performers at a planning meeting. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 17 on page 3. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 17.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad you could all make this planning meeting for what promises to be the biggest and most colourful free rock festival ever held in the South East. So whether you're a performer, a craft exhibitor or an artist, we all extend a big welcome to you. Could we turn first to the plan so I can familiarise you with the layout of the site, which, as you know, is an old football stadium. We're really lucky to have so much space this year. You can see the main gate at the bottom of the plan. Have you found it? That's where most visitors will enter. It's also the entrance for those taking part in the craft fair. We've set the stalls just inside the gate on the left in a circle. If you walk straight ahead from the gate along the path without turning right, you'll come to some steps up to the football stadium. On the left of the steps is the Fringe Stage. This is for alternative artists. They include folk singers, poets and other acts which are more suited to a smaller stage. And they should also enter by the main gate. On the opposite side of the steps is a restaurant, and adjoining that is the main festival information point. Here you can get extra programmes and up-to-the-minute information about events, and you can discuss any last-minute problems, although we hope everything will be running smoothly when the festival opens. Coming back to the plan, you go up the stairs to the stadium. The entrance for the rock bands is on the far side, and on your right is the main stage, which will have powerful illumination and amplification throughout the weekend. There will probably be TV vehicles adjacent, that's in this area only, for recording purposes. If you look at the outside of the plan, you can see a third gate for exhibitors, opening onto a side path. A little way down the path, before you get to the trees, is the building where the art exhibition's being housed. Then, finally, there's just one more building marked on your plan, quite near the main gate. It's divided into lock-up garages, so I hope you now feel quite familiar with the main festival area.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 18 to 20 on page 4. Now listen and answer questions 18 to 20.
We also hope that you'll have received your welcome pack. In it, you should find 2 parking tickets for yourself and anyone assisting you, an armband to indicate that you are an official visitor, one of our brilliant yellow badges with the new festival logo, a festival programme, and several sheets of information that we'd ask you to study carefully before the event. Please could you note that all setting up of stalls, displays and so on should be completed by 9:30 a.m. and that, unfortunately, we won't be able to allow any vehicles to enter the festival area after that time. Yeah, it's a big site, but even a few vehicles parked in the wrong place can block the paths. With crowds of people, and we are expecting several thousand, this can merely be a nuisance, but if there's an emergency and access for an ambulance is blocked, the situation will become not just annoying, but also dangerous. And don't forget, it could be your mother or your child who needs help. Several exhibitors and craftspeople have asked us if any provision can be made for overnight storage of tables, chairs and display items rather than having to take them home and bring them again. We're pleased to say that a limited amount of space has been made available in the building near the main gate. You'll be issued with a yellow ticket to reclaim your property, similar to the red parking tickets, so do check you bring the right one. But please understand that this is entirely at your own risk, as we can take no responsibility for items lost or damaged. I think that's all I have to say at this point, but thank you all for your attention.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
Part 3.
You will hear two students called Katie and Harry discussing a project they are both working on. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26 on page 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Harry.
Katie, hi. Look, let's sit down and work out what we've got to do for this next project we've got for the geography course. I'm glad we're doing it together. We should be able to split it between us so it's not too much work.
Yes, Harry. I had quite a long chat about it with Dr. Smith yesterday, so I've got quite a good idea of how we should be organising it. Now, he said we've got to move on from the general project we did on soil erosion and look specifically at coastal change. I think that'll be interesting, don't you?
Yeah. I was thinking about it last night because we'll have to make sure we pick our days to visit the beaches. It seems there's a reasonable train service to White Sands Bay, but the weather could stop us from getting all the samples we need. It could take us longer than we think.
Yeah, but we could save ourselves some time if we try to get hold of any information that's already been collected. I know several postgraduates who have done stuff in White Sands Bay this year, though on other topics. We could check out what the Marine Biology Unit have got. They're bound to have something we could use.
OK. Let's do that this week and arrange to go to the beach next week. I think we'll need about 3 days. If we book ahead, we can probably stay in the university lodge when we're down there. The other thing is, we must go to the Environment Agency and get permission to take the samples, just in case anyone challenges us when we're down there. I think we'll have to fill out a form or something.
Right, Harry. Now, let's work out who's going to do what first, because we have to get it done by the end of this month. I think we ought to divide up the data collection between us.
What? So only one of us goes to the beach, do you mean?
No, I think we both ought to get a picture of what's involved, but there's no need for us both to do everything. I mean, when we're at the beach, you could go to both ends and make sure we have the set of shots we need to illustrate where erosion has taken place.
OK, fine.
And I'll move up the beach and pick up the different stones and put sand in bags. Does that seem fair to you?
Yeah, OK. Then what about the other stuff? Do you want me to go and do the questionnaires while you're on the beach? We'll get more people that way. Or is it better if we do them together?
I think that would be better. We could set aside a whole day for it.
What about the lab work, looking at what we've collected and testing it?
I don't mind doing it, but I'm pretty slow.
OK, you can leave that to me.
Fine.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30 on page 7. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Then that leaves us 2 weeks to write it up ready for the presentation to the class on the 29th. Shall we do the presentation together? Like you do the first bit and me the second? Actually, no, I think that can be a bit muddling for the class. I'd like to do the presentation, if you don't mind.
Fine by me.
It's just that it won't affect the marks that you get. I mean, it's not like I get more for actually doing it. The tutor will judge it as a whole. But I think I remember them saying at the beginning of the year that we were expected to do 3 before the end of the year in order to get a satisfactory mark. And I'm 1 behind, whereas you've already done yours, haven't you? I can see why they put them into the course, because most interviews for jobs demand you do a presentation nowadays.
Yeah. Does that mean I have to write it up? I think it'll be impossible to do that together.
Yes, you're very good at that.
Oh, yes. Typical that I get landed with it as usual. Actually, I don't mind. I know we haven't got very long, but that's okay. Often I write better when I'm pushed for time. It focuses the mind. But I'll have to have a think about how we present the data, because that won't be straightforward like the rest. So I'd like a bit of help with that.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, I was thinking, after we've done the presentation, I think it'd be a good idea if we asked our classmates to tell us what they think of our conclusions.
Well, I don't know. They won't have done the research, so whatever they say would be uninformed.
I don't agree. I mean, they've all worked on something similar, so they know what's involved, and it would be useful to see how they think ours stands up. We'll have to be sure of our ground, make sure we don't make any mistakes in our results or whatever. I don't mean I think they're going to tell us anything new, just give us their thoughts on the process.
OK. Then I'll deal with the questions at the end. Dr. Smith said we would have to prepare thoroughly for this, and I'll probably get lots of background stuff in the process of writing up, so I'll be prepared for any surprises. If he's impressed by your presentation, then we should do well.
Right.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear a talk about a research project on the tiger shark. First, You have some time to look at questions 31 to 40 on pages 7 and 8. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the research project I've been involved in on the tiger shark. First of all, some background information. The tiger shark, also known as the leopard shark, is often thought to have got its name from its aggressive nature. But in actual fact, it's called that because it has dark bands similar to those on a tiger's body. It is a huge creature, growing up to lengths of 6.5 meters. It can be found just about everywhere throughout the world's temperate and tropical seas, but it is most often found along the coast rather than the open sea. In terms of feeding, tiger sharks tend to be most active at night and are solitary hunters. Their preferred prey includes other sharks, turtles, seabirds, and dolphins, to name but a few. However, it's not uncommon to find garbage in its stomach. This is because it tends to feed in areas such as harbors and river inlets, where there is a lot of human activity. Now to the project itself. We are particularly interested in some studies that have been done in the Rain Island area. Observations here have shown that there is a large population of tiger sharks present in the summer during the turtle nesting season. However, during the winter months the sharks disappear. So we decided to do some of our own research there. The first step was to tag a number of sharks so that we could follow their movements. To do this, we first needed to catch the sharks. Early in the morning, we baited lines with large bits of fish and set them in place. These lines were then checked every 3 or 4 hours. If no sharks were caught, the baits were replaced. Once a shark had been caught on one of the baited hooks, it was pulled in close to the boat and secured, so that we could carry out a number of brief activities to aid our research. This usually took no more than about 10 minutes and was carried out as carefully as possible to minimize any stress to the shark. Each of the tiger sharks that we caught was measured and fitted with an identification tag, and also a small amount of tissue was taken for genetic studies. For some larger sharks over 3 meters long, we also inserted into the belly a special acoustic tag capable of sending satellite signals, while on other large sharks we attached a camera to the dorsal fin to enable us to study the behavior and habitat use of the sharks. After this, the shark was released, and we were able to follow its movements. So what was the purpose of all this tagging? Well, while we were already familiar with some aspects of the tiger shark's behavior and food sources, what we hoped to do in this project was to see exactly what factors affected the migration patterns of tiger sharks and whether it was, in fact, food, weather, and reproductive needs. These are some of our findings. On February 21st, a large female shark, whom we named Natalie, was attracted to our research boat at the northern tip of Rain Island and fitted with one of the satellite tags I've just mentioned. No transmissions were received from Natalie between April 2nd and April 29th, indicating that she didn't surface to feed during this period.
The area in which she was last reported is very shallow, suggesting that she may have changed her feeding preferences during this period to focus on prey found on the sea floor. We also made a number of other discoveries, thanks to the various transmitters we used. It seems that tiger sharks move back and forth between the ocean floor and the surface quite often. This may help the sharks conserve energy while they swim, but it probably also helps them hunt, since this movement back and forth maximizes its chances of not being detected by its prey until the last minute. So far, our findings have not been conclusive. However, we have gained some very interesting insights into the behavior of tiger sharks and are now hoping to develop our research further.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.